You bet. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I mean, there's
And
a
just the and especially the youth of all them people that were your mentors that ended up being some of the most influential people in the business.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole deal here is humble beginnings, and you can already read into that just how Brandon has been to this point of how he's got to this point. But now, as we start to go into what is known as part two with Horn Livestock, we're going to catch you up just a little bit to speed here. If you didn't have a chance to watch part one, you need to go back. Stop right now, go back and watch part one. We thank you for gathering up here with us for part two with Brandon, Corey, and myself here on Cattle Drive Live. But Brandon, we're going to catch up right now. We're going to kick in gear here at the Abilene story. Tell the story you told me at lunch, over lunch one day, about how unique it was you ended up with this place that is now known as Horn Livestock. Talk about how you landed right there where you're at.
Well, when I didn't own any cows. I back up on that. I with Rory, he's anybody that knows Rory Delm can tell you that uh, the very best thing about him is his ability to manage and accomplish things. And um, you know, he had taught me, no bad debt, no this, no that. And hey, Rory still has a nickel of the first dime that he made when he was 8 years old. I'll promise you. And he's a self-made millionaire selling show pigs, and I say that loosely, but that's a fact. Um, and and solely selling show pigs. So he is like, hey boy, and everything was always boy. If you want some cows, hey, you're making the kind of money you need to be buying some. And I know we're doing these things, and you can find a place to run them and do it. This is what you need to be doing, because you're not always going to be here, and you're going to have a family, and you're going to do this, that, and so he kind of gave me a little light vision of what I had in mind, and made it look uh, feasible for me to be able to accomplish. So, with that being said, as I was Jagger was being born in that time, and in '01 there, and so we were 3 or 4 years into her coaching and us moving and living here, and I was half the time at Rory's, or 2/3 of the time at Rory's, and a third of the time of being a dad and a husband, and 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 just trying to make it all work, and establish as much of a relationship as I could with my wife and my son, and still try to make a living, and make this all go. And as I was out and about getting to look and do these things, um, I would stumble across a cow that I would like, or a female, a heifer. I spent a lot of times at Kent McLemore's. That guy's one of the sharpest livestock people there are. There's no doubt in my mind. I've learned as much from him as I have from anybody. That guy can see
You
and do
bet.
things. He's a winner, period. Let's just leave
Mhm.
it at that. He's a winner. Um, Kent, just how he did stuff, and the work ethic he had on making a bear be a be a winner, as the time he would spend with the ones that were good. And I watched those things, and watched his kids. That now, I guess his granddaughter had the grand steer to OYE this year. So I watched when um, the Yoakum girl's mother showed her steer. You was talking about Dan Young when he fit and clipped her calf, and when she had her first grand champion, there at OYE when Dan helped them, and watching them
Yep.
do that. So with all that being said, I was spending time with show pigs and buying females, and a guy by the name of Pete White in Oklahoma. He would run them for me, and Pete White's been instrumental in my program that people don't really realize. Um, I was no different than Clint Petzold with Show Circuit. Hey, I'm Clint's guy. I'm Pete White's guy. Those are my guys. I've been loyal to them. They've been loyal to me.
Mhm.
Honestly, guys, talking about humble beginnings, Pete White has raised cattle for me every single year since 2002. is when I took my very first cow over. I knew who Pete White was. Actually, Pete White raised my wife's Breck breed champion Angus steer in Houston in 1992. I've known Pete my whole life, and when Bruce Glover has been instrumental in my life, he brought me to the table on the kind of cattle that I needed to raise and pick and see and do. So Bruce said, "Hey, Pete can run some cows for you. He's flushing some cows and doing some things." So I carried some cows over to him, and hey, before you knew it, I had Pete 100 cows, guys.
No kidding.
And Pete told me, "Hey, look, you live in Abilene now."
Right.
Pete White, hey, I've told a few people this story, and this is something that needs to be stated. It's real simple. Pete running for me for 2 to 3 years, and I can remember the fee was $2 a day. He run the cows, and he preg checked, bred, AI bred, creek feed the calves and wean the calves, and this made it all happen for $2 a day. And I was like, well, I don't need to own a place. He's doing that. Pete calls me one day, and he says, "Hey, look, that's real simple. You've got 120 cows here. If this is what you want to do," he said, "you need your own place." And he said, "You're not learning anything of the best part of the business. And this will be the best thing for you if you're doing what I'm doing. And then you'll learn how these things need to be built and how they need to look and how they need to perform."
Yep.
And I thought he was kind of picking on me at first, and then he made it real simple. This is the most educational thing anybody's ever done for me to that point in my life. And I said, "Well, there's no way I can make that work." And Pete's like me. He's not educated except from doing what he does daily. And Pete said, "It's real simple. These cattle you have here, there's a lot of good ones, but there's probably more of them that aren't good enough." And he said, "And you're the type of person that you know every single one that you've bought, and you've got every single one of them in your mind." He said, "I don't have to take an inventory. You know which ones they are." He said, "Get you a yellow steno notebook. Draw you a line right down the middle with a pencil or an ink pen, either one you want to use." He said, "I'm going to make this real simple for you. You need to find you a place in Abilene, and you need to move the cows that can pay their way to Abilene. The ones that can't, it doesn't matter what you paid for them. They're paid for. Thanks to Rory D and you and him teaching how to do business." He said, "The ones that pay their way needs to go to Abilene. The ones that don't need to go to the Apache sale barn." It's that simple. And that was very humbling for me at the time. He said, "It's real simple. I'm going to tell you how to do this, and you don't need to make it any harder than what I'm going to tell you." He said, "Draw a line right down the middle of that notebook." He said, "Everyone that pays their way, put them on the left side. The one that can't pay their way or hasn't not paid their way, put them on the right side. Let me haul those off for you, and you got you a down payment on your place." He said, "You take the ones on the left side, you put them on your place. You buy your place, you put them on your place." He said, "Your cattle are paid for. The ones that pay their way will make your payment on your place." He said, "The years where you do extra good and you have bulls, buy you creek feeders, buy you a new trailer, buy you the things that you're going to use, a new squeeze chute, a squeeze chute, period, fencing supplies. Do those things. Don't make it harder than what it is. Don't spend what you don't have. If you'll do those things, I promise you'll be successful." He said, "But the main thing, do not haul these ones that can't pay their way to Texas. It's that simple. I don't care what you give for them. If they bring 600 today at the sale barn, you've made 600. You haven't lost 7,400.
Right.
You've made 600. So
You know, that's a good point you bring up there, because Corey, in Corey's time at the places he's been, at the bull stud places I've been, we talk about this all the time, and not just the three of us in this conversation, but I think industry wide, people that are real with things on about any program. I don't care if you run 30 cows or you run 350 cows. Most places are ran by a very core group of cows that would fit on one hand. And we get to be collectors on that other side of the paper, because she is this and she come from that. But in Pete White's, it don't matter where she come from, old son, get rid of that thing. She's not paying her way. That's some very valuable knowledge.
if they can't pay their way, you don't need them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I honestly use that when I'm to the point where we've got too many. The emotional attachment, Chappie talks about emotional. That thing makes me emotional. Obviously, on a lot of things we do, and it's good to have emotion with all that. And it's no different when you go buy anything, a vehicle, a cow, or whatever. When emotions get involved, you got to sometimes take a step back, have a little light reality check. Is this something I really need to do, or is this something that's going to be a good decision for what we're doing? And hey, Pete made it real, and I've never forgot that lesson that he taught me that day. And he has no idea that I remember that, and that's how I still make decisions and live by the same principle to this day. He has no idea, I promise you. But Pete White started raising cattle for me, embryo transplant calves. He started raising cattle for me before 2000, but in 2002, we flushed the first set of cows. We raised the first set of calves in 2004, and that was the first set of embryo transplant calves he raised for me. He's been putting in embryos for me since 2004, every consecutive year since then, and he's still my man.
Right. There's such a fine line, and to run a successful operation, you got to be right on that line to where you're proud of the product you're kicking out, but yet you are so judgmental of and don't get barn blind and get caught up in your own hype, that you create that product that has success on a high level.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you this. I didn't have the confidence to do it, and I didn't have the money to do it. And when we would flush cows, let's say we get 12 embryos, I'd tell Pete to transfer 4. Hey, fellas, Pete transferred 12. Right. And I said, Pete, hey, look, man, I'm not sure I can pay that bill. He said, you can sell stuff better than anybody I know, and they're not very good. He said, they aren't very good. I do know that they're not very good. And if you can sell that, hey, I'm going to keep putting them in. I want to tell you something. He said, I will tell you something for sure. They will not make you $1 in that jug.
Right.
And I've never forgot that. And Pete's always been my best guy. Pete's secretary / woman that runs the show, Lacey Merritt, she texted me yesterday or called me and said, hey, we're going to have a few extra cows. You know Pete's motto, do you want them? I said, I'll take all you got. So as we're rolling the end of this week, putting in embryos, you want any extras? I said, they won't make any money in the jug. I want all I can get. Anyway, so we have a few extra heats. Do you want them? You get first chance. I said, I want them all.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pete's convinced me that I can sell some of them, and some of them do actually work sometimes.
Right. So your time at Rory's, the show pig world, I think translated just a little bit to the show steer world for you, because those guys in the pig world, in terms of Brett Carter's viewpoint, those guys are really good about making parts. This part for this part for this, and it's like, why in the hell are you doing that? It's because I need this over here. Did any of that translate for you? And when Pete kicked you out of Sterling and said, do this yourself, did that mode kick in for you?
All of it, without a doubt. All of it, without a doubt, no doubt. I love the show pig business, and I love the camaraderie of it and the guys in it, and made lifelong friends that I cherish and never forget. The memories and the things that we've tried to accomplish, and some of it we did accomplish. But with that being said, the I like the show pig industry because of how fast it moves. And you know, you folks that know me, that's kind of my gear.
Oh yeah.
Preston Graves calls it the big hole. You know, slam that thing up there against the dash and let's get it in the big hole. So I like to roll right there, and so the thing that gets me now is you know, a guy's got to humble himself and slow it down just a little bit to make sure you're on the right track. And you know, it becomes more about relationships daily now than it does livestock. Honestly, as a whole, I've come that far in that part of my life that's it is. We have to make a living still, but that's what it's about.
2002, 2004, we've talked about. Let's click up here to about 2008. You ended up raising a steer that wins Houston Livestock Show that has a real cool story that we found out right before we started this whole deal. This story actually starts back in, if my notes are right, September of 2006.
Yeah, that steer right there was born 2006.
That's exactly right, in the fall, but this was in September. What forward thinking did Brandon Horn have?
You know, I've never tried to be anybody but me, and I've always tried to take. I learn so much from people, and I forget this thing. And if I can say this, if you don't get anything else out of this podcast interview, whatever you want to call this, I'm not very tech savvy, but hey, there's always people watching, and there's always people paying attention to what you're doing. And I don't care who you are. You've got a chance to inspire somebody daily every time you speak, and every time you work, and every time you do things. You don't even have to speak, and people are watching and seeing what you're doing. So with that being said, what you're looking at there right here in this picture, there was something spoken from a man named Phil Lautner that said something to me one time that stuck in my head. And I've known Phil Lautner, you know, we go back to this episode 1, we talk about my dad. And I can remember after my dad had passed away that we gathered up. My dad had, he called a black telephone book. We gathered up a black telephone book and we looked up people's names. And my older brother and I decided we was going to go up north and do what he did. And we was going to get it together, us up some trading stock. We was going to make us a little money and see if I couldn't get a show calf out of the deal as well. This is before Ron and Steve started helping me. Okay, so Ron Bailey and Steve Bonham. So we stopped at Phil Lautner's house. So I had a relationship with him. We bought a calf from Phil, stayed the night with him. Colby Horn and I, we took off in our own pickup and trailer. Colby Horn was 16 years old and I was 15. And we were going up north to buy us a show calf or 2 or 6 or 8 or 10. We had us a little checkbook, had $12,000 or $15,000 that we had borrowed from the bank. We were going to trade us some calves. We were going to do how our dad did it. So I didn't talk about that until it just come back to my memory here. Well, so I can remember staying the night at Phil Lautner's house and buying a calf from him, and then going to Kurt Rocker's house and staying the night with him and selling him the calf we bought from Phil Lautner. So, and I'm sure the guys was just trying to help us. I'm sure the cattle were just average cattle, but they were just trying to help us because we were just trying to make it. We was just trying to make $1. So all that being said, so I kept a relationship with Phil Lautner over the years, and remember where we lived in Oklahoma, he had come, and the first I knew of him before we went to his house was he leased a bull called Grand Slam to my neighbor. in Oklahoma, a guy named Terry Lyerly, and he leased this bull to him. He had 2 bulls, and that was kind of his start and his gig. That was before Who Made Who, a bull called Grand Slam. This Grand Slam bull, I think, put him on the map. He would lease bulls to people. So I had a relationship with him. Who Made Who days was in. I sold semen for Phil Lautner. I made a little side money doing that. Boom. He tells me one day, stuck in my mind. He said, at heat wave time, he said, hey, don't ever try to flush a cow to raise another bull or an animal as good as the one you're seeing. It's cheaper and more consistent to clone them. So I'm Rory D, man, every day of the week, except maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This Warren Dozer, I met him when I moved to Abilene. I had a set of heifers. Sold him half of this heifer when she was open one day when he preg checked her, and he said, hey, I've been learning how to flush a few cows. Why don't I flush this open heifer? And I said, I like the way that sounds. He said, what do you want for this heifer? I said, take $1,000 for half of her. And he reached in his pocket and he got me $1,000 cash, and we were partners. That's him standing in that picture. Okay. And wow. I'll never forget, I'm at Rory's early in the week. He says, hey, when you come home, you need to come out here. We got a calf that don't look like many of them I've ever seen. I said, okay. He said, like none of them I've seen. I said, all right. So I was driving through some hay grazer, head tall, and stumbled upon this calf on a 4-wheeler when I got home. It was like seeing the light. It was very emotional, and I was like, I'd like to take him home and make sure he's still alive tomorrow and put him in my living room or my bedroom or bathroom or somewhere. So I checked on him quite frequently. That was the animal we're looking at right there. And I remembered something, and I approached Dr. Dozer about it. I said, hey, look, what do you think about cloning this thing and then selling him as a steer? He said, well, I never thought about anything like that, so I'm on board on whatever you think we can make work. I said, I'm going to check on it, but I'd like to clone him. And then cut it, castrate him, sell him as a steer. We can use that money to pay for the cloning. He goes, I like the way you think. So
you didn't have the money to clone him. You were already betting to come.
That's exactly right. 30 days old. I'd planned on selling him off of his mother. He had a flush mate brother that was similar to him, but not the same animal. That steer you're looking at right there brought $33,000. And he ended up winning Houston. We ordered 3 clones and got one. They called them copies. We got one copy born alive. And the year in March of 2008, when that steer was born, when that steer was grand champion steer at Houston, we had a clone, which we call Solid Gold, that was 1 month old at the time. He was born in February. To fulfill the contract from Vyvanse at the time, which is now Transova, they had to produce 2 more clones. I ordered one, Dr. Dozer ordered one, and we brought in a partner, a silent partner, had a few cows that was going to help pay for the whole deal to let him have one as a cleanup bull, and we could still collect him and sell semen. Okay. So all that being said, we rolled with that plan. They had to put some extra embryos to fulfill our contract, and we got 2 extra, a total of 4. You know, at the time there wasn't as much going on as there is now. I don't know how much goes on now either, but until recently, we'd never cloned another animal. Wade Rogers and I have cloned In God We Trust, and there is a clone on him that we do sell semen on now that We sell it at a cheaper rate than Go and Trust. But with all that being said, this bull was it the one that started it for us.
Yeah.
I can tell you this: in 2000, the first ones available to be born were born in the fall of 2010. That makes them show in the spring of 2012 like this shows. The oldest ones alive could show in 2012. The Grand Steer at San Angelo in 2012 was a solid gold. The Grand Steer at San Antonio in 2012 was a solid gold. The Grand Steer at Houston and the Reserve Grand Steer at Houston in 2012 were solid golds. And then it took off from there for us.
Right.
But
your intentions when you made the so-called copy was to steer the copy to selling. What was it about?
No.
Was it to Houston?
No, the Houston Steer. I thought I'd never seen one look like this. This was the most unique looking animal I'd ever seen. He was small, chubby, boxy, and had bigger bone, and just it's no different. It's no different than when both of you guys saw your wife. You knew what you.
Right.
How does that thing compare? Just in that picture right there, that's 13 years ago. How does he compare to cattle nowadays? Do you think
They're not much different? We've made them a little better in areas, but
yeah,
they're still the old Rory D model.
Boy, he just looks to me like he'd compete nowadays.
He would just build them on like a salt block, boys.
Yeah. So that's where I missed what you said. Cut this one, clone him to make a bull.
That's correct.
Okay, I missed it the other way, and so
the steer brought $33,000. Steve Bonham bought him. He sold him. He wins Houston. We use the $33,000 to clone the three. It costs $37,500 to clone 3 head. Wow. We end up getting 2 extras, had a total of 5. And this the first one we made, they were all clones of the steer. The first one we made that was born solo, he passed away a little past 14 months of age.
Right.
And so then the myth was out that clones don't live very long, it won't work, and this and that. If I had it to do over, I didn't get them named correctly. I named him Gold. I should have named him Solid Gold 1, knowing there was going to be more to come. Because what got people fouled up was they call this the original Solid Gold. Well, the original was the steer, the bull himself. And you might have, if you got a picture of that bull, put that thing up. That bull, he kind of set himself apart. But we had then the steer. The steer, I think he won Grand Reserve every time he showed. But he was pretty unique and pretty special. Still to this day, I think the Solid Gold females are probably as nice a ones as we have or we can make.
Right. So while we're digging this picture up here, talk to us about Solid Gold and where he went. Obviously, mad success out of the gate, and that's probably for me. It was some of the very first colored cattle that we started to see, and I know the slick deal went that way. But not to get off subject of that. Talk about Solid Gold, where you took the genetics of Solid Gold to get to
well, back to the cloning process, and I wanted to make me a bull. That bull looked like on the kind of females that I had tried to put together and tried to start making. With his color, I was like, hey, this is what I want him to look like. I'll breed this cow. My cows are TH clean. That TH was becoming popular. I shouldn't say popular. It was becoming known of what the genetic defect was. Right. Winners usually are TH carriers, but not TH infected because there wasn't enough double carriers, bull and cow, out there. So with that being said, females that were available to breed to and that I'd produced were all clean on clean genetics. And he was a TH carrier, guys. It was just like throwing gas on a fire.
Right.
I mean, it took off. It made me look smart, and I'm not that smart. It worked. I mean, he had such a unique look, and he was powerful, and he was moderate. The thing was just a special animal.
Yeah.
Right.
He was probably one of the first bulls that transitioned out of the South and kind of got up into our country in the North.
Correct.
That I can remember.
Yes, sir. And he would have been a heat wave on a predominantly Charolais, high percentage Charolais cross cow.
Yeah.
Right. The cow that you guys called 10.
Charolais 10, correct.
Yeah, Charolais 10. That's what Chad Chaplin and I visited just a real quick tonight about some of this. And he said, contrary to popular belief, there's not but 2 famous cows at Horn Livestock. And which was a mouthful there. And I said, where are you going with this? And he said, no, instrumental. There's more than that. But he said it all started with 10 and 419. And he said those 2 are the basis of what that guy enjoys today. And so if not to jump away from 10 and solid gold, but where does 419 start to fire up for Horn Livestock?
Yeah. I bought her from Kevin Newman, and I can remember her standing there, and she had such a unique look, and she don't have any famous bulls in her pedigree. He told me she was bull bred, Charolais Maine Shorthorn, and I said, sounds good to me. So she just had a unique build. She had a lot of bone. She had soft hair, and she wasn't a little cow. She had some size to her and had a unique look. Anyway, those were unique animals that got me started. No two ways.
Absolutely. You know, Quattro, that steer that Quattro had that year in Fort Worth was something that I think wowed people in terms of where's this Horn Livestock deal headed. That steer, I think, is one that stands out in my mind anyway. He was a 419 derivative.
He's a Heatwave 419. Actually, I'd sold Travis and Jill Otterstad those embryos, and they'd raised the calf. And actually, that steer that won, his sister is Ingal We Trust's mother.
Okay.
But yeah, his sister. So that's the same breeding. The steer that was the grand steer at Fort Worth in 2012. His full sister is In God We Trust's mother, bred back to Business Done Right.
Right.
No kidding.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. BDR, you know, that's another bull I think today that, gosh, Corey, there's probably still guys today shooting, firing away, making these BDR females, and what they've done to this business. That's an interesting story you told me one day too about that bull.
I speak about it and make no bones about it. Hey, my knowledge that I have comes from the Lord above, without a doubt. He's blessed me to make me look way smarter than what I am, and every time that I get the Holy Spirit speaking in the back of your mind, I try to act on it. And the 2 or 3 times that I've not made the mistake and have acted on when I've been called upon, it's been successful for me. So that would have been one of the times. And that bull, I sold his mother. And when you had Wade and I on together, it's been a year and a half or 2 years ago, I think. I think Wade and I talked about the first real argument we got into, and it was way before In God We Trust, or in that I'd bought a bull from him, and the bull was called Ammo 388. I flushed Ammo 388 from Wade. That bull I bought from Wade, he sold me half of the bull. I flushed it to one of my 3/4 blood Charolais cows I had when I was trying to make these genetics, and I raised this set of females that were really good. I didn't have my own, enough cattle to have my own annual sales like I do now, like I sell them online. I sold in Donors Unlimited this bred female as a bred heifer. And in Donors Unlimited, Dr. Mims puts on every year. And she was an ammo 388, 474. And he buys her for 10,250. And I think he sells her calf for 3,000 or 4,000 as a heifer calf in his club calf sale. But as she calved and had that first calf, he said, hey, what do I need to breed this female back to for her second calf? And hey, I opened my mouth and these words come out. I said, breed her to love in the business. Why I said this next part, I don't know, but the good Lord had a plan. He said, I told him, I said, breed her to love in the business. You get a bull, I'll buy for a bull. I said, don't cut him and I'll buy him for a bull. And I honestly can't tell you today why I told him that, but I did. And because he's a man of his word, he said, okay, we'll do that. I forgot I told him that. I was looking at his club calves in the spring of the following year. The wind was blowing about 75 miles an hour. I was tucked around on the backside of a creek feeder, and he come around there. The hay was all blown away from the steers. We was trying to look at them. Pen full of black steers, heat waves, good cattle, very successful. And he says, hey, your bull's out at the country. He's weaned and he's ready to be picked up. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, you told me on that female you sold me, if I breed her love in the business, if she had a bull, you'd buy it. He said, he's weaned and in the country. You can go get him. And I said, okay. And he goes, you know where the place is at. Just whip in there and get him. Call me when you get there. So I had a guy with me, Tony Myers, and we drove out there, and golly, there was two incredible painted heifers in the lot. I mean, incredible. And I call him on the phone and I say, hey, how much are these heifers? He said, they're not for sale. You don't like the bull? I said, the bull's good. I like him. I want him. He said, is 2,000 too much for the bull? I said, no, that's fine. And I said, how much are these heifers? He said, you don't like the bull. I said, I love the bull. He said, how's 1,800? I said, I want the bull. He's fine. I want to buy one of these heifers. Pick which one you don't want. I want one of them. And what I'm going to tell you, he's never really told. So I said, I'm the one that mated them for you, and I take no credit for being very smart. But I said, you called me the day you had the cow in the chute to flush her, and you asked how to breed her, and I told you Red Hawk, and you made these two females. I want one of them. It's that simple. What do you want for them? I'll give you what you want. He goes, I don't want to sell them. I'm not going to sell them. And I went, oh, my goodness, don't be like that. And he stuck to his gun. He wouldn't sell me the heifer. I did give $1,800 for business done right that day. And I drove home. And that bull did everything I ever asked him to do. He run in front of me every time I wondered if he was any good, and he just stroked off and cocked off and like, hey, I'm right here, dude. I'm your new man. Yeah. Every time that I wondered what I had, he stood right in front of me, and there it was. So we're to the point now where I collected him. I'm deciding whether I'm going to sell him in a bull sale or keep him. His semen looked good. I decided I want a little semen, so I'm going to take him to get him jumped. And I'm thinking, man, I can't sell this bull. He's about as unique looking thing as I've ever seen. He's TH clean. Wow. So I'm trying to convince somebody else he's good now. So I called Dr. Mims. Now, this is the mating. I'm telling y'all right now, this is the making of In God We Trust. I say, hey, this bull I got from you is a stud. He goes, you think? I said, I do. I think he's that good. I said, I'll tell you how good I think he is. I said, that 961 donor cow I got at your place. Yep. I said, I want you, I tell you how much confidence I got. We're already late in the game. He's put his August embryos, transferred to get his August born embryos in the cows. It's time to preg check. I said, I will take all of your open recips. You flush 961. They can be October borns. Flush. I'll transfer all the fresh ones to 961 and Business Done Right. I want to do it to Business Done Right. I'll buy all your pregnancies. You don't got to redo your cows. I'll buy the pregnancies. I want them. I want your recycles. He said, I'll do that with you. Once again, we speaking on how the good Lord will provide and take care. Hey, the reason In God We Trust works, his mother's, for lack of a better term, pretty tall and skinny, got big bone and hairy. That bull was born 2 weeks premature and was the most unique looking animal I'd seen since I've seen solid gold, except better, because we've moved on to a new kind. This thing does it, and he does it in a better way. And this was without a doubt the dangest looking thing I'd ever seen. And anybody that stopped by there go, what in the world are you going to do with that thing? I said, I don't know, but we're going to make more of them. I do know that. So the rest of the flush was born, and they were good, but they were bigger cattle, and they were good cattle, but they had higher performance and faster growing. And because of those things being 10 days to 2 weeks early, I believe in my heart that's why they generate. And they made the birth weights right. It's just made the cattle the optimum size that we're all shooting and looking for, and the right kind. The rest of the story is that's why there's just one of those, and there's not a bunch more each year. Hey, that thing, the good Lord decided that's the only one I needed. And that's I've made several more of them, and they've been successful, sold good, generated good, but nothing like that thing has. There's not been like him.
Absolutely.
In my place. But that's how he was made and how he was born, from Business One Done Right to In God We Trust. And that was quite humbling, delightful to see something like that and to be able to raise something like that. It's very gratifying now, because as that has happened in what I've done over the last 10 or 15 years, the solid gold, BDR, selling females every year and bulls, and trying to kick out another bull and trying to put a bull battery together to make a living and feed my family and be as successful as we can be and try to do the right thing and honor God in whatever we do and how we do it and try to do it the right way. It's humbling to see how hard it really is and how it all fell in spot when that's never really was my plan. It was just happening. It was just happening. I think when you plan things, the good Lord goes, I'll show you. Chad Chaplin said something to me at one time when he was struggling on making decisions and what he needed to be doing and where he needed to be. And this is something I use this story time quite often when I tell people when it's not going good. I think the good Lord just kind of giggles up there and he looks down and he says, hey, boys, you guys are plowing the wrong field. You're nowhere near the right place that needs to be plowed. Get on over here, get your life back where it needs to be, and humble yourself and come on over here. This is what it's all about and where it's at. When we're worried about materialistic things and things we're trying to accomplish and things we're really trying to do, and at the end of the day, hey, it's very humbling to see sick people and people just it's hard to explain, but it is humbling to know the God we serve and what he can do and the things that he does for us daily. That's none of it's done intentionally in our way when we're trying to accomplish these things and we don't really have a plan. It's just all falling in our lap. Just that simple.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not very intelligent. I'm not very smart. I try to honor and do the right things and be all I can be daily and try to be the best I can be for my family every day. That's just what we do.
I was taken back a little bit when Grady and Hudson and I came and visited you last fall. I was taken back with something that you had a Hereford steer in the barn that year, and when we left there, I think it lit a fire under me and my boys for sure. There was a Hereford steer and a Denver steer in your barn at that time, and both of the boys asked you, well, you're not going to take one to Denver, you're not going to take one to Houston or Fort Worth or whatever, and you just said, no, we're just going to take one to Sand Hills and one to Denver, and that's it. And it wasn't until the ride home that those guys didn't even understand the success that you and your family have had at the Texas majors. Your daughter had won them all, and I'm bragging on you, I'm bragging on your family, but Sand Hills Hereford show is the only thing that they'd let her come to. And it lights a fire under you to see that, and Grady and Hudson left there probably fired up more than ever, to see that a family could have that kind of success in the big pond down there in Texas. But
when you think about it, it is very humbling. Hey, we never could win that show. Haven had reserve grand twice, and Jagger did once. And
yeah,
we could go again this year. And Haven said, "Dad, hey, that's good enough. I don't have to have a Hereford."
I got you. So what is happening today in Anson, Texas? Where's the focus today? Is it the next bull? Is it the next female? Is it the next Houston champion? What's the focus there today? Red is the craze, Corey. That's something Corey and I talk about. Is red is the craze right now in the business. Everybody wants red, and I know that there's some pretty wild looking red bulls running around Anson, Texas. It's got some age on them. But where are you at today in terms of what do you see coming at this business in the next 3 to 5 years? And don't let my red comment happen. But I mean, what do you see?
Hey, we go day to day. We try to survive each day. I'm the red deal. I don't know what to think about that. I'm being real with you. Good cattle are good cattle. I like white ones. It's that simple. You breed a white one to a red one, you get a yellow one. That simple as well. I don't know. I've said the red cattle aren't good enough. They're just that simple. Can we make better ones? Yes, we've got to make better ones. And good thing red and black go together. White and red go together. White and black go together pretty good. And it just, I don't know. I've got some bulls that I like that are red, and we're trying to make better ones. It's just hard to make those genetics, and they've been gone for so long that, and the colored bulls, when I call colored bulls, the white, yellow bulls they're so dominant in how they're built. And, they're unique in their own way. And I'm not sure red one's ever going to take those out on what they're doing. Am I trying to make the next bull every day? Obviously, but you got to be realistic. We're trying to make a living every day, and when we're to the point now for what some of these things are worth, guys. Hey, when I started, my goal was to sell the very best steers I had so I could keep my very best heifers. For what the very best heifers are worth now, you've got to sell them or sell a piece of them. You have to. It's the only way to survive and thrive in the business. It's a consumer-driven industry, period. Hey, these guys want what they want. It's that simple. It's a consumer-driven industry. When the guys tell me, I want to get them bigger, I said, there's not one person that comes to my house to buy a show steer that says, hey, I want a bigger calf. They want a better calf. They don't want a bigger calf. They want a good calf.
Right.
You make them bigger, I think we're going the wrong way. You'll get you a bunch you can't sell, and then you won't like big cattle very well. Trust me, I've tried it. You got to make them better, not bigger.
Yeah, I agree. Brandon, before we start to wind this thing up here just a little bit, tell me something. The young guys that are listening, maybe it's an old guy listening to us here on this part 2 episode. digging in here, tell me a setback that you learned from that propelled you forward. There was a time in your life somewhere that you felt like the water was here, and it was just that little bit got you back out of the water. Tell us that moment. I know it's vivid in your mind. Everybody seems to have one, or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, is
I
there
can
a
be
moment?
real with you. I know. I think the good Lord knows I'm not very strong and I'm pretty weak, and He's not really ever propelled me to be to that point. So I can't remember when I had such a bad day. I can tell anybody that asks at Horn Livestock, we don't have bad days here, man. We have good days and we have better days. Some days are better than others, but we don't have bad days. It's
You
that
told
simple.
me that just this week. You said we
I'm
have
a,
bad days.
I'm a
We don't talk
positive.
about it. Right.
Hey, I'm a positive guy.
Yeah.
And I'm being real with you. The good Lord's been good to me, and He's protected me in so many ways. I ask for His guidance daily. That's that simple.
Hey,
I don't know. I don't know about I don't know what to tell you. If I can't remember any time. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, we've had a lot of downfalls and a lot of struggles. Most of the time, it's self-inflicted. When we would go through a dry spell showing, and I would tell the family, "Hey, we got to work harder. We got to do this and that." It was all pretty simple. We were all being selfish, and we weren't doing what we were doing daily for all the right reasons. And you get back to doing what you do daily for the right reasons, and that's serve who we serve and do what we do. That makes it way more valuable. And you will win in life, and you will win at a steer show, a heifer show, or whatever you choose to partake in. You'll win when you least expect it. When you're expecting to win and you talk about winning, hey, it's usually that much further away.
Yeah.
You don't, and you humble yourself, and you know you want to do the best you can do, and you make it not life or death, that's when things are good.
Right.
That's,
hey,
that's the
I'll-
fact.
I'll
Playing
flip
the
the
wrong
switch
field.
on you, Brandon. On the flip side, I see all them pictures in the background there. Is there a moment that you can remember in your memory that was the most memorable and special?
Oh, for sure. The Grand Steer at Fort Worth, when Avon had, that was about as memorable as it gets for me. And hey, what did I tell you all about expecting? Guys, that was our backup steer. And I still think it's the best one I've ever raised and the very best calf. And the steer we took to the show before we weighed him in was crippled coming off the trailer. And I told my guys at the barn to get old Bentley headed this way. He was going to get to make the team. And we finished clipping him at the show. And it's pretty special to me about that calf that I raised his mother. I raised his sire. I raised his sire's mother. And I raised the showman.
I mean, just the picture here. You talked about solid gold being competitive earlier, Corey. This thing here looks like he's just as real as ever today.
I mean, that was 4 years ago. But with that being said, guys, he was a special animal. He's in God We Trust 620, ultra stout, ultra unique, and that calf is kind of like me. He didn't have many bad days. He was always that unique.
So you were planning on slicking him for?
Yes, sir. We were going to show him at San Angelo the next week.
San Angelo, yep.
Absolutely. We were going to show him at San Angelo the next week.
How about that?
And Avon had not won that show, and that was our goal. Had a black baldy we got from bottom that we were going to show it and it's all got a weird way of working out. We had a black baldy we was going to show at Fort Worth, and I told Breck, my wife, and Avon, I said, hey, we're taking the wrong calf. And my wife said, shut up and leave it alone. We'll show that king next week. And I said, we're taking the wrong calf. They can't beat this silver one. And I've never talked like that to my family, ever. I don't ever tell things like that.
Right.
You know, I tell them this is a good one. I think he can win. But I don't ever say they can't beat this one. I said, they can't beat this silver one. I said, if he looks like this, they can't beat him. She said, we'll show him at San Angelo. He sure should be good there. Is what my wife said. I said, okay. So it was ironic that when we unloaded our calf that we took, that he could not, the steer could not move coming off the trailer after being in the trailer all night waiting in line, and then that calf looked like that. But what makes me the most proud about this is we've talked about it, and you guys talked about it at the start of the first segment about if I'm known for anything, it's to make slick-sheared cattle. And nobody thought I could raise one. I shouldn't say it like that. Nobody thought I could raise one. Who would have thought that I could have raised one? Not I, we. I don't like the word I. That we could raise one that could win at a level like that in the herd show against the toughest competition in the world.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's what makes that one special.
You bet. Well, hey, Brandon, we're going to wrap this deal up. When Brent mentioned this deal about humble beginnings in this series and said we were going to start with you, boy, I just don't think we could have came up with a better person for who you are and the type of cattle you raise, the bull battery you put together. It's been awesome, man.
Well, it's very humbling to be invited to do something like this, and this is not something that I normally do. So I'm very honored, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you guys for allowing me to come on here and tell a little bit about my story.
It just wouldn't be fair. Tell us what's coming up here for you this summer, the next few weeks on show circuit online sales with Clint. I know you've got, just feel like it would only be fair to you to talk about some upcoming sales of these genetics we've got to spend the last few weeks talking about. But tell us what's coming up, Horn Livestock opportunities.
We're going to picture here. First part of next week, we're going to have a bred heifer sale here first part of July. I think July the 3rd on a Monday is we're going to have a bred heifer sale, and then going to move into some bred cows into July, first part of August. Try to sell a few bred cows, and I'm toying with messing with the idea of having Gerald. I know sold some this year. I have done it in the past. I say Gerald. I'm talking about Gerald Buck. I'm messing with the idea of selling some pairs in September. So August or September, I'll probably sell some pairs. And the reason for that is we're calving these cows early. We started feeding these things 2 years ago and feeding them everything they eat. And so these cattle that were calving last August, we speed them up. We've got May, June calves on them now. Bred them on natural heats, and it's hard to get our calves sold before that July deadline and get our bred females sold. Just wasn't feasible to do. We do all we can do every day, but it's still a time issue for me. So, and I got to feel good about what I'm doing and making sure we're making the right efforts and strides daily.
Yep. Well, good deal.
Thank you. In September, we're going to sell some pairs and then move in November, I'll have a fall bull sale.
Right.
Several of the bulls.
Yeah, well, good deal. Well, Brandon, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. I mean, I know it's been long for us. It's 2 segments. I just don't think we could ever really.
Like we just got started.
I'm telling you, I've enjoyed every ounce of it. So, hey, I appreciate you. Good luck going into the summer. Thanks for all you do, man.
God bless you guys, and God bless folks listening. Good luck at the Summer Junior Nationals.
Absolutely. Take care and thanks.
Thank you guys.
Brandon.
Appreciate that.